So I'm going to ask you a question for show of hands. How many people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Okay, who has not yet read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Okay, some of you have not read it. Okay, for those who haven't read it, I'll just give you a little bit of a background on the book and myself. My name is Robert Kiyosaki. I'm fourth generation Japanese American. I was raised in Hawaii. I went to school in New York. And when I graduated from school, I went to flight school for the U.S. Navy. I flew helicopters for the Marine Corps in Vietnam, and then I came back from Vietnam in 1973 and went to work. So the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a true story about my two fathers. My real father was the head of education for the state of Hawaii. Very, very smart man. PhD, academic genius. He graduated from university in less than 2 years. And he eventually got his PhD. He eventually got to run the whole school system of the state of Hawaii. But, as you know, many times, like my father being a very smart man, he had me as a son, and I flunked out of high school once and twice. And the reason I flunked out of high school was I couldn't write. So it is ironic today that I am an author. It was the last profession you'd think I'd ever be, because my teacher said, you cannot write. And today I sold over 31 million copies of this book. And I think I'm going to look up my school teachers and tell them I can write now, finally, you know. So anyway, it's a story of what my rich dad, who was my best friend's father, told me about money. And as you know, we don't learn much about money at school. And so what we're taught is by the school system, by people who are poor. And we wonder why we have financial problems. Like America used to be the richest country in the world. Today, it is the in the world. People are worried about Greece right now. Greece is nothing. The Germans will bail them out. If America goes down, which it is close to going down, it will cause tidal waves throughout the world. So the reason it is important that we invest in our financial education is we are at a very critical time in world history. The rich will get very, very rich, and the poor will get very, very poor. The middle class may be wiped out. So that's why I wrote this book back in 1997, and every publisher turned it down, saying I cannot write, just like my school teacher says I cannot write. And it wasn't that I couldn't write. My teachers did not like what I write. Okay, so this is this book, and this is my latest book. It is called Unfair Advantage. It just came out 2 months ago. It is already on New York Times bestseller list, Wall Street Journal, Entrepreneur Magazine list, and all this. This book is when I'm 9 years old. This book is when I'm 60 years old. I have never made so much money in the last year than any time in my life. 2010 was my best year, but unfortunately millions of people lost everything. Today there's about 7 million people who have lost their homes in America. 7 million people have lost their jobs and not coming back. And that's why I look at the national debt of America. It makes Greece look tiny. That's where we are today. So that's why I wrote this book, because I could see this crisis coming. And then there's this book, because this is what I'm doing today. What you will find, I'm doing the same thing. In this book, I said your house is not an asset. Your house is a liability. And yet people still run out and buy houses. Not very smart. But this book here explains what I'm doing, my wife and I did in 2010. So that's why I'm going to talk about it today. I'm going to be talking today about what financial education is. And you will find out today why the rich get richer, even as the economy crashes. And the reason I do this is because I don't want you to be one of the persons going down. I want you to be a person who does better no matter what happens. No matter what happens here in the Czech Republic, in England, in Poland, in South America. Japan doesn't make any difference. The rich will always get richer. And I just want you to be one of them. But you have to do your part too. Because unfortunately, most of us came from parents who weren't rich. Then we went to school and we learned from school teachers who weren't rich. So what you'll be learning today are different ideas. And some of my ideas may challenge your old ideas. So that's why we're here today for. We'll be talking about education, what financial education is. So, before I go on, I'm going to ask you to do something different. I personally didn't like school. I hated school. I still graduated. I still went to a very good school in New York. I have my Bachelor of Science degree and things like this. But I didn't get rich by anything I learned in school. And one of the other reasons I didn't like, so I was bored. I just wanted to go to school to find out how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a rich man. And they kept saying, no, 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 you must get a job. And I don't want a job. I just want to be rich. So what we're talking today about is a little bit about financial education, but also I'm going to challenge some of you right now, okay? One of the things I didn't like about school, there was two big things. They said, number one, don't make mistakes. Well, how do you learn anything if you don't make a mistake? That's why we have all these school teachers who have all the answers, but they haven't made a mistake yet. You can't walk if you don't fall down. You can't learn to ride a bicycle without falling down. And yet the school system says, don't make mistakes. That's stupid. So my poor dad, very good man, very, very good man. He knew all the answers, but he couldn't make a mistake. And when he was 50-something years old, he lost his job. So he started a business, and the business went bust. He lost everything. And he said, oh, I'm stupid because I made a mistake. Well, to be successful, you have to make more mistakes. So that's number one. Number two is this. In school, the teacher always did the talking because they had all the answers. Today, I'm not going to do all the talking. I want you to do the talking. And you'll find out that more in school, if I talk to a student, the teacher said I was cheating. In the business world, it's called cooperation. I'm asking somebody else to talk about something. So, I'm going to ask you right now, if you're sitting next to somebody, I'm going to ask you to turn and for 1 minute, this is all you're going to talk about, so throughout the day, because otherwise it's going to be too boring. Me, talk. I will not do that. You have to do the talking. So what I'm going to ask you to do is turn to somebody next to you and discuss something for just 1 minute. One person talks for about 30 seconds. The other person talks for about 30 seconds. Okay? I don't care what you say. You could say that Kiyosaki's stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't care what you say, but just talk. Okay? So, if you're sitting alone right now, please listen. Please find somebody to sit next. And the reason I say that is this. Every time I do this, I look outside, and there's always somebody like my poor dad, my real father. And all these guys do, like my dad, the A students, they just put data in their head. But they cannot do anything. Talk, because that's called cheating. So, if you're sitting, I'm going to ask you to move. If you're sitting by yourself, please move over and sit next to somebody else. So please do that now, or I'll pick on you. Or choose a partner now. Very good. Some of you moving, some of you... Okay, hold on. Hold on. Very good, audience. Hold on, 1 second. This is the first test. This is the question. The question is this. Hold it. The question is this. What did your mother and father tell you about money? Now, let me bring that up. My mother and father, my mother always said, You must go to school to get safe, secure job. My father says, yes, you must have good grades. If you don't have good grades, you won't make a lot of money. Whereas my rich dad said, if you have a job, you'll never be rich. If you work hard, you won't make much money. So I want you to think, today is about you. You cannot learn something new if you have the same old stuff in your head. So I'm going to ask you to challenge yourself. Again, my poor dad said, go to school, get a job. And my rich dad says, if you get a job and you work hard, you'll never get rich. You'll pay too much in taxes. So the advantage I had was that I had two fathers to listen to. I didn't know which one I was going to listen to until I came back from Vietnam. And when I came back from Vietnam in 1973, my poor dad didn't have a job. Even though he was a PhD, doctorate, very smart man, he couldn't find a job. And that is what's going on across America today. Unemployment is so high. My age cannot find jobs. And the reason they can't find jobs is because they've been programmed to think like an employee, not an entrepreneur. So I want you to think about that. So I want to give you 1 minute, and after 1 minute, I'm going to say, please begin finishing up and stop. When I say stop, please stop. Otherwise, we can't go on. So throughout the day, especially when I get boring, I'm going to ask you to talk because I don't want you to fall asleep on me. Okay? So you have 1 minute. Find a partner and talk to each other about what your mother and father told you about money. 1 minute, ready, go.